Hi YouTube, it's Lauren. So today I wanted to make an updated video of what's going on with us, what we are kind of doing going forward. The last video I posted, because I've just started this channel, the last video I posted was yesterday, and that was basically the very first video I ever filmed, and that was when I had my ectopic pregnancy, January of 2019. So here we are, January 2020, and we have not been able to get pregnant again since my ectopic pregnancy. So we definitely did not see ourselves in this position. It's a little bit disheartening that we're here, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about what has happened since our ectopic pregnancy. So to start, after the ectopic pregnancy in January, we had to wait a minimum of 3 cycles, which was about 2 to 3 months, before we could start trying to conceive again, just because the medication depletes all your folic acid in your body. So you have to continue to take like prenatals and everything afterwards to try to build that all back up. So that is what we did. We waited until about middle to end of March, and we started trying that cycle again. And I have ovulated every cycle that I know of since that point. And so March 2018 till now, so it's almost been a whole year that we've been trying to conceive again after our ectopic. We've been trying to have a baby since July of 2018. That's kind of when I went off birth control and made the decision that I wanted to start a family. So let's think about this. So we started in March. I was a little bit concerned about the whole ectopic pregnancy, so I wanted to have an appointment with an OBGYN and make sure that they didn't want me to do any further testing or any further, just anything to check to make sure, like, was this going to happen again, or like, do we think I'm good and it was just a fluke? Like, what's going on here? So, no one in my family has ever had an ectopic pregnancy, and like none of my parents, and I never had miscarriages, and like everyone's got pretty normal cycles. The only issue was my cousin on both my parents' side, because that's a long story. But my cousin, she had a double uterus, and she obviously still has that. And she had a lot of trouble with trying to conceive, but she was eventually able to do that with like a lot of medications and monitoring and stuff like that. So what we have done since then is we started trying in March. We tried in March, April, May, June, and then I had my appointment with my new OBGYN in July to check things out, kind of discuss kind of like preconception planning type things. She informed me to get on a prenatal, which I was already doing. She said, you can get an HSG done, which is a hysterosalpingogram, which is basically an imaging procedure where you lay down on a table, and they inject a dye into your fallopian tubes through your uterus to make sure that the dye spills out both sides of your fallopian tubes, and it can be used to help diagnose like tubal issues and things like that. With my HSG, they told me everything looked fine. It was incredibly painful, but I would do it again if it meant that I was going to get pregnant. A lot of women actually get pregnant right after an HSG. That was not my case. It didn't do anything for me. It kind of messed up my cycle that month, so I was a little bit annoyed with that because typically people get pregnant that same cycle, or at least the first 3 cycles following it. So my OBGYN was like, maybe you'll get pregnant right after the HSG. A lot of women do. So give it 3 cycles, and if you're not pregnant, then you can come back and we can discuss further as long as all the results are good. So results were fine. We tried 3 cycles in a row and nothing. So that's when I got a referral to a reproductive endocrinologist. And I figured maybe I should check out my blood work. Maybe we should have my husband checked because he hadn't been checked yet. And just see what else we need to do going forward if this is going to be a long journey. So after that, we saw a reproductive endocrinologist in November of 2019. And she said, well, your husband's semen analysis looks good. They did 2, I think they did 2 at the time. They said the only issue was low morphology. And for any of you that don't know, there are 3 criteria for sperm that they look at, and there's motility, there's morphology, and then there's the number of sperm, so the amount in a single ejaculation or whatever. And in my husband's case, his count was great, his amount of sperm. The motility was really good, but the morphology was on the lower end. His was at about 2 or 3% morphology, which means 2 to 3% of that large sample were normal and the rest were not. Now, normal, it's hard to say whether, does that really matter? Because an abnormal sperm can fertilize an egg, but it is more difficult. And if you have more normal sperm, you have a better chance of fertilizing the egg. Sometimes sperm that has a low morphology, this is how it was explained to me, is that sometimes low morphology sperm can have a difficult time penetrating that outer part of the egg. So fertilization never happens because they are not able to penetrate through. And if that's the case, maybe the egg and sperm are meeting each other every month, and the sperm are just not getting there, getting through that egg. So they said that could be a likely case. Doesn't mean that we're infertile, doesn't mean that we're sterile. It just means that we have low fertility. So with my history of ectopic and then my husband's sperm morphology, we were considered to be like a lower fertility, but they're not saying we're infertile or sterile or anything like that. They said maybe you try for 4 years, 5 years, and maybe you'll eventually have a baby on your own. But if you're not willing to wait that long, you might want to do something in the meantime to see if you can make that better. So me, I'm 27 now. My husband is 27 as well. He'll be 28 in a few months. And I want to have 2 or 3 babies. That was my plan. I know that a lot of times your plan doesn't really go how you planned. And God might have other plans for us in store. I don't know. If I only have 1 baby, to be honest, I would be blessed. I would be happy with that. 1 baby, I would be happy. I just want to have and carry my own baby. So, I feel like I look pretty calm about the situation right now as I'm talking, but it's been a really hard year. We have gone through months and months and months and months of failed trying to conceive and taking OPKs and taking my temperature. And so we're going on 18 months now that we've been trying, since I first stopped taking the pill. And it's gotten pretty frustrating. It's been really hard on our relationship in the fact that everything has always got to be timed. We're never like able to be spontaneous with things. And then with all these sperm analysis, and then, I'll get into like IUIs and everything. It's just been very stressful, and it's just, we're young and we just don't understand what's going on. And I feel like there is something going on with one of us or both of us that's really causing an issue here. And maybe it's my fallopian tubes. Maybe the eggs aren't getting down. We just don't know. We don't know what's going on. It was recommended to me that I possibly have a laparoscopic surgery done to see if I have endometriosis. I do not have any signs of endometriosis. I don't have PCOS. I don't have painful periods. I don't have heavy periods. I don't have times when I don't have a period. I don't have pain in other areas. My periods are super, super easy to deal with, and I'm blessed that they're not like bad. They're not debilitating. I'm on my period right now. This is day 4. I I barely go through 2 pads in a day, and that was kind of starting yesterday. So, but my cycles are pretty normal. Every 26 to 28 days typically, so they're a little on the shorter end sometimes, but most of the time I ovulate around cycle day 12 or 13. Um, I've had a couple months where I ovulated a little early, according to my OPK strips, but who knows? So basically, what we decided to do was we actually went um, through with one IUI. We did an IUI in December, and that was with letrozole or Femara, and then an Avidral shot, trigger shot. So I did Femara for 5 days. I did 10 milligrams, I believe, or no, I did 5 milligrams for 5 days, 5 to 7 days it says. But I think I do it from cycle day 3 to cycle day. Yeah, I do it from cycle day 3 to cycle day 7. So, so that's what I did, and I think actually that last cycle I couldn't get in for my monitoring, which is where they like they do an ultrasound and they check your blood levels to make sure that you can actually are good to go start with an IUI cycle. That first cycle I couldn't get in until cycle day 4 of my period, so I didn't start till that night, and so I was a day late starting my Femara, which maybe that made a difference. I'm really not sure, but IUI number 1 failed. Everything was great. Everything was fine. I only produced 1 mature egg, which is fine. I did my trigger shot. I went in 36 hours later. My husband gave a sperm sample. It was 80 million count, 70 or 96% motility, and they didn't do anything with morphology that day, but after they cleaned and washed the sperm, it was still 40 million sperm, which was a pretty good number. So, yeah, they did the insemination, and I did take the day off because I wasn't sure what to expect, but it was no problem. I had no pain. I didn't even feel the IUI, and I maybe had like a tiny bit of cramping that day, but other than that, I felt great. And nothing leaked out, which was like, it's just crazy because, you know, when you have intercourse, you're always like, ah, it's leaking out. But with this, nothing came out. It was just like, wow, I can just go on with my life. So that's kind of nice. I just did one IUI. I know sometimes people do back to back, but that wasn't the case for us. So we did that IUI. I waited. I was very hopeful, but it didn't work. So I decided to take a break the next month and just try natural again. So that was this last cycle, and here we are. So we're doing another IUI this cycle. This will be our second one. Our insurance company only covers this, and then they don't cover any more IUIs, and they do not cover IVF as well. So this was kind of our last like ditch effort to try to get pregnant before we go and spend a ton of money. So here we are. We're on cycle day 4, second day of Femara. Same dosage as last time, and then I'll be going in next Saturday for a checkup to see how my follicles and my eggs are looking, to see when to schedule the IUI. So we actually went to see a Canadian fertility doctor, an IVF doctor, in Windsor, because we are in Michigan, and the appointment went really well. He didn't have a lot of concerns, but he did say, you know, you can try a few more IUIs. It's not going to hurt, and see what happens. Recommended my husband, excuse me, start taking some other medications to help with his morphology possibly. So he's recommending that. Just for both of us to be healthy, cut out, you know, caffeine, cut out like a lot of high greasy foods, you know, make sure we're exercising our diets and all that good stuff. And other than that, there's really not a whole lot wrong with us. So that was kind of the plan. And he actually had mentioned to for my husband to sit on ice, because apparently cooling down the testicles can help with the morphology of the sperm and other aspects of the sperm. So that was interesting to hear about, but he hasn't tried it yet. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, so that was our consultation in Canada. The reason we went over to Canada is because it's a lot cheaper in Canada. But there are a few downfalls as well. Like you can't have surgery in Canada. You can freeze your eggs there, but then you have to go to Canada to access them, and then transferring them from Canada to wherever. It's a big process. The actual procedures themselves are a lot cheaper, but they will not do more than one embryo transfer at a time for IVF in Canada. They will only do one at a time because of the risk of multiple births, and they don't want to be responsible for that. I don't know how that all works, but it's in Canada, so it's different rules and healthcare system. In the US, they will transfer up to 2 embryos at a time, so that's nice. So we are pretty sure we're going to have to do IVF, which it's hard for me to say that. It's hard for me to get to this point where I'm like, okay, I think we have to do IVF. I always wanted to just get pregnant naturally, but we started trying to conceive when I was 26, and I'm going to be 28 in a few months. And I just feel like I really need to get going with this and see what happens and see, like, is this really a possibility for us? Can we get pregnant again? Can I keep the pregnancy? Can I make it to full term with a baby? Can I deliver a baby? So it's been a little stressful, but we've been told by all the people that we've met with, I have really good, my levels are great. Everything's amazing. My AMH is great. My hormones are all perfect. So they're like, we really don't know why you're not getting pregnant. It might just take longer for you guys. But we're getting frustrated, and we don't want to wait anymore. So I guess we're being a little bit impatient, but I think our goal is to do this for one baby. If it works, we get a baby and we're going to be happy. And if we can either have another baby naturally or maybe not, maybe we'll just get one baby, and maybe that's all we need, and that will be enough. But my hope would be to have 3. I don't know if my husband will be down for doing another IVF, depending on how many embryos we would get from the first one. But we did meet with the fertility clinic in Michigan today, and it was a lot different consultation than the one in Canada. Better in some ways, not as good in other ways. It felt a little bit more rushed. It felt a little bit more pushy. As far as going towards IVF. But I think in the long run, for us and for our situation right now, I think it's probably a good decision to just do it in Michigan. Do it 10 minutes down the road from my husband's work. Do it 25 minutes from my work. And just try to make it work. So that's what we're going to do. We're doing this IUI this cycle. We are going to be doing birth control after I finish this next cycle if I'm not pregnant from the IUI. We're going to start birth control on cycle day 3 of the following cycle. And then once I start the birth control, they'll give me like a whole plan of what my IVF schedule will be. And they're actually planning on just doing a fresh transfer with us because we decided not to do any genetic testing, just because we feel like our hands are already in it enough. And if we were to get pregnant naturally, we wouldn't be doing any of that anyway. So, yeah, at this point, I think that's the plan. We discussed the price. Of course, it's a little bit more expensive than we were hoping. But they do have financing for a year, no interest, with a certain payment down kind of plan. So I think that's what we're shooting for. So we will see what happens. We're not 100% going for it right now. We might take a little bit of a break and try a little longer. I don't know. We'll have to discuss it, see how ready we feel to move forward with it. So that's where we're at right now. We're excited. about the prospect of starting IVF because it gives us something that's got a lot better success rate and chance. And although it is expensive and very taxing and a lot of money and a lot of time and effort and a lot of probably not feeling so good and a lot of days off from work, our end goal is to have a baby. We just want a baby. It's like, why does it have to be so hard? Why? So that's it. That's where we're at. But just know that there's so many options. They discussed ICSI with us, which is intracytoplasmic sperm injection, which if morphology is the main issue of why we can't get pregnant, that's going to like nip that in the bud right there, because they just inject the sperm directly into the egg. So it's kind of like an assisted fertilization. And then I'm just hoping like we get like 30 eggs and like 15 of them are amazing and fertilized and we can pick from those. And my dream would be to have a really, really good girl and a really, really good boy and put them both in and they both go and I have twins, or one or the other sticks and then we have a surprise whether it's a girl or a boy. So that would be my thing. But we will see what happens. Nothing's set in stone yet. We may wait a little longer, but we're hoping that this process will be started by, at the latest, May of 2020, like for the IVF, if we're going to go for IVF. So it's almost February, so we don't have that much longer, so it's all becoming very real. But we have really been trying to be very patient, and we've gone through a lot of heartbreak with the ectopic and just all the trying. Anyone who's been trying for longer than like 3, 4, 5, 6 months even knows that it starts to get really stressful. So you kind of come to a point where you're like, we need to do something, because this is like not ruining our relationship, but it's putting a lot of strain on our relationship, and it's really hard to just keep going and just every month keeping yourself positive enough to even want to try again, to even say, is it even worth it for all the stress and everything that we're going through? So you're not alone. I have watched a million videos on YouTube regarding this topic and women talking about their history, what they're going through. And I have to say, the first thing that I did when I found out I was having an ectopic pregnancy is I went on Google and YouTube and I searched videos and I watched other people talk about that, and I watched other people's fertility journeys and stuff, and it really helps me feel like I'm not the only one going through it, and that I have a little bit more knowledge of what to expect going forward. So if you have any questions about anything I mentioned, you can drop a comment down below and I'll try to answer the question as best I can. But yeah, anyone who wants to connect with me going through something similar, any suggestions or anything that you think I may have missed, go ahead and just leave a comment and I'll be happy to respond. But good luck with everything, guys. Good luck on your fertility journey, and I'll be trying to keep you guys all posted. I know no one's really subscribed to my channel. I'm only really doing this for kind of to keep my own record of things, but if anyone does start to follow our journey, I'm gonna try to post videos over the next few months of what we're going through, just so I have something to look back on as well. So God bless. Have a great 2020.